And we'll begin with a welcome, and some introductions for you. My name is Rob Perkins. I'm currently serving as the chair of the Community Action Advisory Board, and the elected official representatives. My elected office is school director at Evergreen Public Schools. And Abby, if we could go around and introduce yourself and then go on, folks.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Malloy. I'm the Clark County Community Services staff who oversees and manages the board. Now I'm just going to call on folks for attendance. I'm just going to go through my list. First, I have Diana Perez, who let me know that she is running late and will be here in about 30 minutes. Sandra Zavala Ortega.
Here.
Thanks, Sandra. Rob Perkins is here. Katie Fabella.
I'm here.
Great. Brondolyn is absent today. Emily Wilson. Not seeing Emily. Clover Spears. Don't hear Clover. Megan Mulsoff.
Good morning, I'm here.
Great. Faye Solomoni.
I'm here.
Great. Amy Rourke.
Yes, I'm here.
Lily is excused today. Nakia Hunter. I don't see Nakia. Melanie Green.
Lucy, come. No, Lucy.
Can folks please mute themselves if they're online? Thank you. Melanie Green.
Here.
Great. And Brittany Lassane.
Here.
Awesome. And it looks like Emily Wilson may have just joined. Emily, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. All right, then I believe we do have
Quorum having been established, I think there were some other folks who were on the call. Could you open the screen? I thought I saw Councilor Young's name. Councilor Young, are you with us?
I'm here, just listening in as a guest this morning.
Welcome.
This is Amy Rourke. I was gonna say, if there's an AI that might be following me, could you stop that on your end? It's been following me to all my meetings for the past few months. I don't know how to get rid of it.
There's a summary.
that might be an automated thing that's
Okay.
happening. Yeah.
Okay, a quorum having been established, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is the approval of July 2025 minutes. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to look over the minutes on the committee or on the board, rather?
I did.
We'll do about a minute or two for people folks to review it. And then I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes.
This is Amy. I second it.
Okay, who moved? Who moved to approve the minutes? Please give your name.
Sorry about that, it was Megan.
Where you're looking for someone to make a
And Amy seconds it.
So it's Megan and Amy. Okay. The motion has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none from the others, I noticed a couple of items that I'd like to, item 2, where it says the item approval of the March and April minutes was skipped due to the lack of quorum, has an item 5 of approval of the May and June minutes. And what I'm proposing is that item 2 be stricken because the minutes were approved. I don't want the minutes to create an impression that action didn't happen when it did. Might be another meantime. Yeah, item 6 as well, the affordable housing and homelessness updates were presented as item 8. I know this sounds kind of bureaucratic, but if those items weren't skipped, we probably shouldn't reflect in the minutes that they were skipped quite this way. So this is sort of my motion to amend. And is there a second to that?
I second that. I was wondering
Okay.
that. I didn't know how you guys did that, actually.
I'm being a stickler for the rules right now, but we'll go ahead and take a vote on striking items 2 and 6 for those reasons. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? So that's unanimous, and so we'll go ahead and approve the motion, the minutes as amended now. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? So that's a unanimous vote to approve the minutes as amended. Carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation by Dale Whitley of our point-in-time count. Work standard 5.9. Dale, are you ready, or do you need more time?
I believe so. Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you,
Okay,
yes.
great. Great.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, so Abby, are you running the slides? Is that-
Yes, I am. Feel free to let me know when you want me to advance that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so hi, everyone. My name is Dale Whitley. I am the Chief Assistance Officer with the Council for the Homeless, and I also coordinate our annual time homeless count. Thanks for having me today. It's always it's a tremendous effort in our community to collect all this information. So I appreciate the chance to share out the information that was the fruit of all that. Can we go to the next slide? So first of all, the point in time count. What is it? It's a single night snapshot, normally on the last Thursday in January. So this year it was January 30th. That time frame is a requirement by HUD, and the point in time count itself is a requirement, joint requirement from both HUD and Washington State Department of Commerce. HUD requires an unsheltered count to happen at least every other year, but Washington State has required us to do one every year, so we do one every year. Yeah, historically. So yeah, so that's why we always do an annual point in time count. You may have heard, like, sometimes Portland or areas in Oregon may have had a skip year because they don't have that same Washington State. So one thing about the point in time count is that it only counts literal people experiencing literal homelessness by HUD's definition. So so people who are doubled up or living with friends or family would not be included in these point in time count results. And every year we try and use any new tools we can to increase the effectiveness in the count. We're always reviewing what we should do next year to try and get a more thorough count if possible. And the point in time count is sometimes used to help with our planning and funding determinations for future years to see where gaps are developing, things like that. And we should say that it's the best available data. So it is a best effort snapshot that takes place on one day. So it's important to remember that it's always we're looking at one day, that January 30th date. So we do other reports that are looking at years worth of data, things like that. But in this case, it's just one day. And we always know that there's probably somebody who wasn't counted for whatever reason. But if we use the same methodologies year to year, it does give us some kind of an apples to apples-ish comparison to see how things are changing. All right, next slide, please. So the data sources that we use to produce the point in time count information So there's two main pieces to the point in time count. There's the sheltered count, and then there's the unsheltered count. And so for the sheltered count, we're able to use our HMIS system because pretty much all of our emergency shelters in Clark County are using our homeless management information system. And so that data is already in there and collected. We just have to verify the shelters that their numbers are correct, and we're able to just use that. But for the unsheltered count, that's where a lot of this effort that I mentioned earlier goes into. So we have any non-HMIS service locations, so areas where people may frequent on that day, food banks, libraries, we reach out to them, try to make surveys available for people to provide their information at those locations. There's also the school district homeless liaisons are contacted. They have to collect information on their students and families that are experiencing homelessness. And so they send us our numbers for those literally people experiencing that literal homelessness that HUD is requiring. And then one of the main pieces that requires a lot of effort is the street count. And so we have all of our homeless outreach teams going out to known locations throughout our county to collect information on everybody that's there at those encampments on that day. Now, we also, in coordination with the point in time count, hold a Project Homeless Connect event. And so this is a service fair on the same day as the point in time count, where we promoted a lot in advance, let everybody know that there's going to be all these amazing services available on this day. So there's hot meals, there's clothing, there's dental care, vision, people are getting eyeglasses, and just haircuts, all kinds of services that are available on this day. And so we try to get everybody to come in, and everybody that comes in fills out a survey so they could be included in the time count as well. So yeah, Project Homeless Connect event is this annual event. It's always a great day to see all these people and help them get the services and also get them counted in the time count. All right, next slide. Right, so this is an overview of the high top level numbers in the point in time count. So, and it's got some comparison with our 2024 as well. So this year, a total of 1,530 people were counted as experiencing homelessness on January 30th. And that was up 12% from the previous year's count. Unsheltered was 742 people, and that was an 11% increase. And 560 people counted within emergency shelters, which was a 16% increase, and 228 transitional housing, which was a 7% increase. So our emergency shelters are pretty much always full. So when we see increases on the emergency shelter side, that's normally an indication that we had another shelter available. That there were just more beds on that day. And so this, yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit more in the slides. So of those 1,530 people, 42% of them are women, 57% identified as men, and 439 were counted as chronically experiencing chronic homelessness. So chronic homeless has a specific definition for HUD. So it's people that have been experiencing homelessness for a year or longer, or have had 4 episodes of homelessness within the last 3 years. So, episodes where they may have become housed for a while, but then they return to homelessness. The cycle has kind of continued, and for one reason or another, they haven't been able to achieve stable housing. And then they also have to have a disability. So that's part of what is determined to be someone is counted as chronically homeless. And that was a 28% increase in this year. 152 identified that they were survivors of domestic violence. And that's a 55% increase from the previous year, where 98 people were counted in 2024. So just a little bit of kind of comparison among other communities as far as how our point time count numbers equated. For the statewide, for all of Washington State, for unsheltered, you can see our unsheltered number was up 11%, and statewide it was up 12.8%. It's all of Washington State, so a little less than the average. And let's see, for the Pierce County was up 11%. I think for their total number, ours was 12%. And Lane County, so where Eugene was, like they were up 14% this year. So a little less than some of the other. Slide. So I mentioned that there was that increase of people within our shelter count. So there were 560 people counted in emergency shelter, which was up from 483 in 2024. I know it says 2023 there. That's a little typo I need to fix on that slide. But yeah, so that was a 16% increase in emergency sheltered clients. And that was, like I said, it was largely due to an increase in our number of shelter beds. So this year, we had an additional winter overflow shelter, which was the art center. Was open for this year. And so those additional beds where we had an increase in our emergency shelter count. And then there was 7% more people in additional housing as well. All right, next slide, please. So the increase in the total number of people within our unsheltered count. So these would be people who weren't in a shelter. Right? They were living in their cars, living in tents, like that. 742 people were surveyed in 2025, and that was an 11% increase from 669 in the previous year. And that increase was mostly driven by a growth in the number of unsheltered single and couple households. So there were 532 single people in single and couple households and 463 last year. So the unsheltered family members, so people, families with children, increased by 2 households in 2025. So just up, but just by a couple. And in 2024, that increase in the number of families with children was 19. So it was good to see that not continuing that level of increase. Next slide, please. So for seniors in the 2025 count, since 2017, we've been for a good while across years, we were tracking an annual increase in the number of seniors that were age 62 or over that were experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So where there were 3 counted back in 2017, and by 2023, that increased to 40 seniors, 62 plus, that were unsheltered. And, you know, again, this is January 30th, so, you know, the oldest months of the year that we're counting. Additional shelters where seniors were prioritized contributed towards a reduction in that number. So there were 30 unsheltered seniors that were counted in 25. And the number of seniors that were in shelter has increased across that time. So to 94 and 72 in the previous year. Right, next slide. For veterans in this year's count, the total number of veterans counted in 2025 was actually equal to 2024. So for both this year and last year, 39 veterans were counted. And last year's 2024 count showed a 29% reduction in total veterans from 2023. So that number had been in 2023 was 55, down to 39, and stayed 39. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is bringing back, this was a little chart that was in the earlier slides we looked at, that homelessness affects by people, so Black, Indigenous, people of color, people at a disproportionate rate. So according to the most recent census data, 2023, 25% of our Clark County population identify as BIPOC. And but of all of our homeless people counted, the people experiencing homelessness with the point in time count, 38% of them identify. And so we have the percentages there where you can see the racial groups of how people identified. So 12% Hispanic, Latinx, 12% Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, 9% multiple races, 8% Black African American. And I mean, as far as how some of those populations, like about that census, the one that other charts we've seen where there's kind of this greatest disparity would be that the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, who, according to the census, make up 1.2% of our population, but are 12% of the people experiencing homelessness on the data time count. Next slide. All right, so any questions?
I do the same.
Oh, go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I was just wondering, why is the population, what is the reason for it increasing so much when there's so many new places, so many new apartments and duplexes and stuff being built?
Yeah, well, yeah, cost of, the cost of the apartments is always a factor. And yeah, I mean, the cost of our rents are very high. There's lots of reports out there where you can see like, how much you'd have to make to be able to afford some of the new apartments that are opening. Yeah, so I mean, just because we have a new apartment doesn't necessarily mean that they're
Kind of crazy they'd be calling them affordable housing and then they're still not affordable, right?
Kayla, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna add onto that, Amy, for what I hear most from our outreach teams, so specifically the people that are out there working with individuals in encampments for placements and within rental assistance programs like rapid rehousing or any temporary subsidy program. There's a lot of people that are ready and to get off subsidy programs, ready to be independent. However, the housing stock for fair market rent right now is really just the average for what's available in our community, and that's sitting right around $1,700 a month, which is quite expensive, especially if you're a single individual. So really that is we're just looking for other avenues. We can't increase our affordable housing stock, looking at how we can connect people to roommate opportunities. But as you can imagine, that can be a challenge with the population that we serve.
And also, I guess I would add that people need to be ready to move into an apartment. Sometimes, we saw that there was an increase in the number of people that are experiencing chronic homelessness. So all of those people would have to have a disability. You have to have some income to have an apartment. So sometimes it takes time to even qualify for your SSDI benefits, things like that would help you to be able to afford, get to pay for one of those minutes.
I see a couple other hands raised. Looks like Megan and then Katie. Go ahead, Megan.
Hi, thanks. I was wondering if you had information for what the increase or what caused the increase of individuals over the age of 62 to start experiencing houselessness.
Yeah, so we do as part of the point in time count. It's not a HUD requirement, but one of the things that we just have added as a custom question to our accounts is there a primary reason for why they're experiencing homelessness in their own words, what they would identify as that main reason. So yeah, I think that would be good. We have that, so it's in the data. I haven't pulled that piece out, but yeah, I think that would be worth doing. I'll make a note of that to try and get that information. We have seen, our homeless population has seemed to be aging, and not necessarily, it has been aging over the years. As I've been looking at this data, I've been the HMIS administrator for 15 years, and I'm seeing like higher and higher ages as far as the people that are experiencing homelessness. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to start focusing on that and tracking it.
I specifically work for Adult Protective Services, so any sort of resources that can be relayed through us to other investigators, and especially through home and community services to case managers, would be welcomed. And so if that data is included in the presentation or set aside, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Katie, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. I'm on my phone. My computer decided to do an update at the beginning of this meeting. Dale, good to see you again. I am glad that you're here. For the group purpose, though, can you explain how the point in time data is collected in terms of where people began their journey of losing housing, like the city that they came from? Because I think there's some confusion on that. And then also a reminder for the group, I think a larger conversation in terms of not just housing, looking at families and the income brackets across the system. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the income requirements for food stamps, for childcare, as well for housing. And there becomes a point where families feel like they cannot actually make more money, because the more money that they make so that they can afford food and groceries, the less services they get for housing or for childcare, which doesn't align with the new money that they're making coming in. So it makes it really difficult for families to feel like they can get out of this situation. Even with minimum wage going up, it's just not enough. So when you have housing that costs too much, so they're working more to pay for that rent, now they're making more money, they just lost food stamps. So now they need even more money to make up for that money that they lost out. And then childcare can cost upwards of $2,000 a month for full-time childcare. And if you lose that, now families have to not only come up with, we'll say that $2,100 a month for rent, but now $2,000 a month for childcare, and that's just for one child. And you're doing that, we'll say, on minimum wage. So it's not a system that's set up to really help. It kind of just dampens down and makes it difficult.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. One thing, thanks for the reminder. I did want to say that this was just a summary of our point in time count data. We have full reports. We have with more graphs and such on our counterhomeless.org website. And we also recently just released our annual homeless system number report, which looks at data across the year. And a piece of that is our zip code report that Katie mentioned. And so it's actually got a interactive map of Clark County where you can click on a zip code and you can see the total number of people who identified that zip code was their last permanent residence prior to them experiencing homelessness. And that is I think a point that Katie wanted to bring up, was that when you look at that report and you see those numbers, it's also got a chart. You can just look and find, your city or zip code jurisdiction and see the number there. Also, for zip codes that are outside Clark County and outside of Washington, you can see like how many people came from California or wherever. But it's important to always remember that those zip codes are not necessarily where somebody is currently experiencing homelessness or living. It's where their last permanent zip code was prior to them experiencing homelessness. And it's also like the most recently entered zip code, which may have been a while ago. So it's not necessarily, super fresh, but it is, again, that best available data to collect. And it is, interesting to see. But yeah, so we have much more reports on our councilforthehomeless.org website. You can find both our additional point in time count information and that system number report.
Thank you, Dale. And it looks like there are a couple of comments in the chat, which I'll read aloud. Just a friendly reminder to everyone that Open Public Meeting Act laws for these meetings require that comments are shared aloud rather than in the chat. So moving forward, we prefer folks to just unmute themselves and share their comments, but I'll go ahead and read these aloud. So Emily Wilson says, the average cost of rent for a family of 4 for a 2-bed, 2-bath in Clark County is $2,401. United Way has collected data over the years to estimate survival budgets for folks in different areas I really recommend folks check it out to get an idea of how much it costs to just survive. And then there's a link in the chat for www.unitedforalliance.org/the-cost-of-basic/Washington. And then Kayla says, I highly recommend checking out dashboards for the Housing Affordability Index. You can separate by city and county. And there's a couple links she put in the chat. And I'll just send these out over email so everyone has access to them rather than reading out these URLs. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, it sounds like Rob, our chair, has to step out. So Melanie, are you able to take over the meeting as chair from here?
Yes, let me pull up the agenda.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melanie. Wish it
Yeah.
could go like this, but it's gotta be like this.
And I have to leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dale. We really appreciate you being here.
Abby, are you able to, I'm not finding the agenda. Are you able to share what is next while I find the agenda?
Yeah, so next we have the July 2024 through June 2025 outcomes report, which is actually my action item. So I can go ahead and go through this while you pull it up, Melanie.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, so here's the report there on my screen. I sent this out over email, and I also have some hard copies available in the room. I think all of you have seen this report a few times at least, but I'll just go through the basics. So this is the report for outcomes from the Community Action and Homeless Crisis Response System programs for all of fiscal year 2025. So July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. You'll see on the left-hand side of this report in orange, it shows the organization and programs and the annual report period. Then in the middle in green, we have a description of a few of the activities that each program reports on, the annual proposed goal for these activities, the number that they achieved during this fiscal year, and the percent achieved. And then on the right-hand side in blue, you can see the annual contract amount for each program, the total spent, the remaining balance, and the percent spent. Since this report is for the entire fiscal year, most of the percent achieved and percent spent will be at or around 100%, though some programs may be higher or lower when it comes to program goals, or might be slightly underspent in their contracts. For programs that have significantly overachieved or, sorry, there it is, on their goals, we have received explanations from providers and are working with them to reassess targets for the next year. So this first page shows community action programs. A couple things to note. Some of these programs have continued for the next contract period, and these include Share Hunger Response, 211 Info, Clark County Volunteer Lawyers Program, and the Community Foundation for Southwest Washington Social Justice and Resiliency Fund. The other programs were not selected by the CAAB to continue contracts for the next 3-year period, though a couple of additional programs were selected, as you know, and those will appear on the next report. And then scrolling down on the next few pages, we go into the Homeless Crisis Response System programs. These are broken out by service type and include system coordination and data collection, core support services, outreach services, shelter services, rolling very well today. Rent assistance for transitional housing, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing. And sorry, there should be one more page. Oh, and rent assistance for prevention. A couple of things to note about these homeless crisis response system programs. Unspent funds from the eviction prevention rent assistance programs are rolling over to fiscal year 2026, but all other unspent funds were returned to Commerce as per grant requirements. Detailed descriptions of each funding type can be found at the link, which is posted on the report. And one other thing to note is that some of the reports in this section required technical assistance, and we're waiting on agencies to send updated information. So there might be some minor updates to this report coming, and if there are, I'll send an updated version of this report and post the updated version on the website as well. And then the last page of this report shows demographic information and some details about survey responses and grievances. At the top left, you can see a chart about participant satisfaction, which shows that of the programs that send out surveys, there were 5,735 surveys sent out to individuals and households during the fiscal year. These received 1,322 responses for a 23.1% response rate. And of these responses, 91.4% indicated a positive overall experience, which is great. When looking at community engagement during this fiscal year, programs had a total of 1,695 volunteers, with a total number of volunteer hours at 29,725. 4,688 of these hours were by low-income volunteers, and the total value of the volunteer hours throughout the year was almost $600,000. We also have program support on grievances, and of the programs that had a grievance, let's see, there were 273 total grievances, 191 of these were resolved, and 44% of programs had a grievance reported at some point. Then looking at demographics, you can see charts here for age distribution of clients served, gender, education level, race, ethnicity, and other characteristics. This ethnicity chart was added for this report per request from the CAAB at our last meeting. One thing to note is that the ethnicity data you see here is only from programs that are reporting demographic data outside of HMIS. I haven't been able to pull ethnicity data from HMIS, and I'm working with Dale to figure out how we can do that. I should have that on the next report. Any questions about these reports?
Hi, Abby. This is Kayla. I have one small correction. EPRAP funds are a part of our consolidated homelessness grant. So no funds for that grant were rolled over. So anything unspent in that budget was sent back to Commerce, and local dollars were also taken back so we can reallocate them for brand new contracts starting July 1 this year.
Thank you for clarifying, Kayla. Any other comments or questions?
Hi, Abby. This is Diana. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Diana. Yes.
Yes, I think last time I saw this report, I had asked whether we can include in the demographic section the Hispanic Latino demographic. There it is.
Yes.
Oh, I see it. Sorry, I'm having to zoom in here. Thank you.
No
Is that
problem.
that lower bar graph?
Yeah, so on the bottom right, there's a graph for ethnicity data. I don't know if you just joined the meeting, but One thing I mentioned is that the data in this chart is only from programs that are reporting demographic data outside of HMIS, because there's been some barriers to pulling ethnicity data from HMIS on our end, but I'm working with Dale to resolve that and should have additional data for our next report.
Okay, thank you. And I joined right at the end of, is it Dan's presentation? Sorry, I should have raised my hand, but I didn't want to interrupt.
No worries. Any other questions or comments?
Not for me, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to the grievances, is demographic data tracked on that?
The demographics of folks who are reporting grievances?
Correct.
That is not something that we receive from agencies. I'm not sure if agencies report that or track it internally, but it's not something that we're currently tracking at the county.
Okay. And then is there, in regards to grievances as well, is there a like categorization of like what they're falling under? I guess what like my end question that I'm trying to get at is I'm wondering if there is something that we should be looking at into like people that are filing grievances, and is it a specific population that may be getting underserved? Just like what specifically are the grievances? And I don't want individual information, to be clear, but if there's a way to know, like, is it that they're say that like maybe they experience some kind of discrimination? Is it that well, it could be a lot of different reasons. So I guess one, I'm wondering if there's like kind of a categorization that could possibly be shared around it. And then two, if there's opportunity to also look at demographics, because that might be a telling story as well.
Yeah, those are really good questions, Brittany. So when programs do receive a grievance, we ask for, details about what the grievance is about, and that's something that's reported through quarterly reports. And then program coordinators work with their individual programs if there's any concerns about those grievances. We currently don't have a system where we're tracking, themes across agencies related to grievances, but I think that is a good suggestion and something that we could start doing.
I would also add, Abby, that is something that the state, starting July 1, has made a requirement for our CHG grant, so our largest grant coming in. And we are in the process of developing a board for a local grievance procedure and complaint process that all of our agencies will need to operate under. That way we can begin tracking things like that, and we'll also be required to report it back to the state as well.
That's great. Thank you, Kayla. Any other comments or questions about the quarterly report? All right, hearing none, I will pass it back to Melanie if you have the agenda up and are ready to take over as chair.
Yeah, thank you for filling in. Next up, we have Samantha Whitley with the City of Vancouver providing us an affordable housing and homelessness update. Welcome, Samantha.
Hi, good morning. I'm also joined today by Ian Elger on my team. And so I will be happy to talk about the rental habitability program updates, and then I'll pass it over to him. So next slide. I updated this board a couple of months ago about rental registration, so it's still underway. We had an RFP that was released and closed. We had 5 proposals. We've narrowed it down to 2 vendors that we are demoing their systems this week, and so hope to get under contract in the next 2 weeks. That's a kind of a short time frame to implement the system, and we are still on track to launch it January 1st. So we also have a website with FAQs and some information about the program, and we'll be doing more communications and a guide on how to use the system once we select the system. So I just wanted to give a reminder to folks that this is coming, and I'll keep updating you throughout the fall and probably then into the next spring about the implementation of this program. But unless there's any questions, I will turn the next 2 updates over to Ian. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sam. I think we can move on to the next slide, and it will be about the AHF Homeownership Award. So every year under the Affordable Housing Fund, we have $500,000 available for affordable home ownership. And this year we had 2 applications, and our scoring committee advised that we go with Habitat for Humanity's 32-unit cottage cluster project. This is a project that is already underway in the infrastructure phases. With this local funding, they'll be able to submit their application for state funding pretty soon and show that local match and hopefully be able to close the final gap. And so this project will be under construction in 2026 and starting to wrap up and sell homes by the end of 2026 and early 2027. We'll be going to council on September 15th to present this award. So that's exciting news that we wanted to share. And then the next slide is going to be an update on our annual report. So every year by September, we're submitting our annual report to HUD about how our CDBG and home programs fared in the last year. As you can see here, we distributed $2.7 million into the community. Some highlights from the data: we had 19 agencies with contracts this last year. We were able to assist 17 homeowners in purchasing an affordable home. 194 businesses received assistance through our micro enterprise technical assistance contracts. 182 young people received services through the Fosterful contract for in-home case aids in the foster system. We also had 3,500 people receiving homeless services and 39 households receiving rental assistance. So we will be, the CAPER is currently up online and available for public comment. And that will also be presented at the City Council meeting on September 15th. That's all I've got.
I have a question, Ian. Are any there the 3,500? Are any of those like doubled, or is that just, you know what I'm saying, like, is that 100, 1,535 different people, or is that, you know what I'm saying?
That's a great question. I'll try to answer and maybe also see if Sam knows how those are collected. But I know that a large point, so the homeless services included in our CDBG and home contracts include a range of activities, including outreach events. So for example, I know Thrive to Survive hosted some outreach events that had a lot of people show up to them. And so maybe those go into it. Sam, does that sound right?
Yes, that's totally right. And they're not unduplicated, but we take all of the quarterly reports from each of our agencies that are doing these services, and then those are rolled up, and that makes the total. I would guess that people attend more than one event, especially for Thrive to Survive.
Sam, I would just like to say that if it is helpful, the state, when we report on HEN, because we also report on unduplicated instances, and that language has really helped when we're sharing that information as well.
It's a good one. Thanks.
Hi, Sam. Diana here. I have a quick question. First of all, nice job. My question on the Affordable Housing Fund Home Ownership Award, how many applicants were in that?
Two
Yeah.
applicants.
Oh.
Go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. And actually, Ian is our homeownership coordinator. He's the point person. Proud Ground also applied for funding.
Okay, all right. And was the limited amount for home ownership award, was it 500 total, or that proportion of how much goes to home ownership? Is it set? Was that
Yes,
the entire money?
that is the entire
100,000?
money, and that is actually for our 2026 funds. So that is what is indicated in our administrative plan for the Affordable Housing Fund.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions for Samantha and Ian? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you so much for the presentation and the information. Appreciate it. Next up, we have some task force updates. Amy, would you like to start with a legislative task force update, please?
Sorry, I'll jump in here. Amy actually let me know a few weeks ago that she didn't have any updates for the legislative task force. But Amy, if you do have anything you want to share, feel free to jump in.
With legislative, no, I did just send you something. If you could send out a CAAB about an opportunity with Monica Stonier about it's a free event to learn some of the legislative advocacy stuff. And yeah, but I sent you the link. So if you could send that out to the CAAB, that'd be great.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Amy. All right, so for the Community Needs Assessment Task Force, we have been making some good progress. The survey is finalized and I'm planning to send it for translation soon. We've also begun our outreach strategies. The main thing that we've done so far is coordinate with the Clark County Food Bank. I made a video for their partner agency meeting last week. And am starting to pull up information from each of the food bank partner agencies about, how many surveys they need, in what language, and I'm going to start doing additional outreach to more agencies soon. And then the team building work group actually has not yet had a chance to meet. We had a meeting scheduled, but folks couldn't attend, so we're working to reschedule that. Any questions about task force? All right, back to you, Melanie.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Kayla Williams with a severe weather response RFA information.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kayla Williams. I'm the program coordinator with Clark County in charge of overseeing our homeless response system. And Luis, who you may also see in here on occasion, is my counterpart who also helps me oversee these programs. And Abby, we're good to go. Get started. So we're just going to go over a brief overview and we will go through some questions. So I just ask that if you have any, write them down. That way we can run through them after all the information is presented. Next slide. Alrighty, so this RFA is focused on strengthening our homeless crisis response system's ability to respond during severe weather events. It's really important for us to note that these are utilizing funds from leftover House bill from contracts from the last year and our local reserve funding that we have as a department. We've heard that our county council and during ECHO has really raised this as an ongoing issue over the last few years, and even more so as we see the population, the unsheltered population continue to rise. So we have listened, we listened during the echo each time there is an ongoing meeting, and then me, Michael, and Sunny with Council for the Homeless had been meeting for the last few months to make sure that the design of this RFA meant the community need that we have heard from our providers, from our actual individuals with lived experience, and of course from our community leaders on the echo. So the funding is available across 5 service types, ranging from planning to staffing to direct shelter and supply efforts. So eligible applicants include nonprofits, tribes, local jurisdictions, and public agencies. Go ahead, Abby. This is our RFA timeline. So we already held our pre-submittal workshop where some of the interested applicants came in and we were able to answer some questions one-on-one. There is a link to that training as well on the website. We have some technical assistance drop-ins coming up. So next week is going to be our first one. And it's just an open office hour that I hold for our applicants to come in and get some assistance with Bonfire or any other questions that they may have regarding the application process. Deadline for submitting questions is a couple days before full applications are due. And that is because any question that is asked of any applicants has to be posted for all applicants to review within an appropriate time frame before the full applications are due. And then that next day, we do have to run kind of quickly with this because of the emergency nature of this RFA. So the next day, we're going to have a staff review, double check that there's no technical corrections that are needed. We'll reach out to agencies if that's the case. And then September 22nd is when we're going to provide applications to the scoring committee. And then we hope to get our Clark County Council approval on October 21st. And then on November 1st, we will have a launch date for those activities. Go ahead, Abby. You are going to find everything that you'll need in our guidance document. I also have that up. So after we go through these slides, if we can screen record, Abby, that would, or screen share, that would be awesome. If not, I believe were emailed to you guys. So if you are able to pull them up, well, we can walk through what those look like. But the guidance document is something that you're probably going to see for most RFAs moving forward. And it's really just the roadmap. It outlines all of our eligible activities, scoring structures, and application formats. It is the same guidance document that our applicants use. So our scoring committee will also use, that way everybody is on the same page. And then it is used to understand the budgets that are available, make sure that the application or the proposal meets our intended system goals and is aligned with our system. And then we're going to walk through a few highlights as well. But it's really important that applicants and scoring staff read through the guidance in full. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to either meet with you, take a call, answer an email, whatever it is, to answer your questions about that. Go ahead, Abby. Perfect. We'll go over a couple of the application components next. Go to the next slide. So one change from previous RFAs that you may notice is that we are doing one consolidated application to include a few different questionnaires under one submitted questionnaire. So the scores that you're going to see in Bonfire are not going to actually be those scores that are given to the independent applications. We received feedback from the agencies that it is quite complex and it can be confusing, especially for newer agencies to understand that they need to complete separate questionnaires and which one needs to go for what appropriate items. So we created this one to clearly lay out which tabs need to be completed, but that the agencies will only have to submit one full questionnaire as opposed to, say, like 5 different questionnaires if they wanted to apply for an individual program. But we can look at when we go through that RFA guidance document walkthrough exactly what that looks like. And then everything is available in Bonfire for the agencies to download. And there is a checklist there as well. Next slide, please. So our scoring structure, each questionnaire has one tab that has to be completed per the agency, and that is our shared core tab. And that really just looks at the program's background, experience, and their coordination. This is the component of each application that will act as the core score for their agency or program. So that 4 points, say if they get 1 out of 4, 1 point would be added to each of their other program applications, and we will add up the total. And again, I think when we actually look at the guidance document, that may make a little bit more sense. And then each individual program type has 8 points available. So those points emphasize expanded capacity, and they prioritize coordination with our homeless system, readiness, and overall community benefits. And then the deadline to submit questions again is that September 15th date. Next slide, please. Okay. And then if we can do a quick either screen share or Abby, if you have it available, the guidance document to pull up so we can answer any questions that may come from this one. So the first page is really just what it is. It is our severe weather response request for application. And as you scroll down, page 2 has a table of contents. So you can quickly see where everything is if you want to just pop in later on and you're looking for one specific component. Page 3 is a description. So here you'll see that proposals must increase capacity for programs that provide shelter and or promote the health and safety of households. So the intent here is that we know there's a lot of activities that are already occurring in the system. Importantly, because this is not ongoing funding, this is one-time funding that Clark County has identified, or the Department of Community Services has identified that is available to allocate. We need to have some plan in 2 years when we don't have these funds anymore, what we're going to do during that period of time. And then also because of the emergency nature, and we know that the work is already being conducted here and agencies are losing their capacity to be able to administer that work. It was important to us to note that ideal programs would be increasing capacity for agencies that already have that severe weather response structure or experience, because we don't have the time or resources within the next month to build up agency capacity for this response, because severe weather typically starts at the beginning of November. So all funded programs are going to be required to work together in an integrated and mutually supportive continuum of care. So much like Council for the Homeless is our lead in our homeless system, whoever ends up being that severe weather planning entity is going to be the lead for our severe weather response partners, and they'll hold that severe weather work group, and they will coordinate response whenever severe weather is called. And yeah, Amy, that is correct. So Amy said that ENU procurement is coming up instead of Bonfire. ENU did buy out Bonfire, so there is a name change there, but when you log in, it still is reflective of Bonfire. And some of the things still also say Bonfire inside of them as well. So a little confusing, but it is the same platform. And then specifically to note, this last paragraph is really important. The funding awarded through this RFA is intended to increase the capacity, but it's not meant to replace the plant or shift costs that are already planned and budgeted, meaning if that an agency is already in operation and they already have set amount of dollars allocated toward that response, this RFA is meant to increase their efforts because the need is high. It is not meant to free up those funds so that they can put them toward other activities. And then page 4, if we scroll down, starts to break out the specific funding categories and the allowable activities in those categories. So severe weather planning, that is really the backbone of our response. It is the entity right now, Council for the Homeless is in this role. kind of by proxy. They did get some American Rescue Plan Act dollars a few years ago when COVID started to do severe weather response. And that's how it kind of really got integrated in the community. And we had that severe weather work group. But since ARPA funding has been completely spent out, Council for the Homeless has kind of been taking on that role without the additional funding necessary to maintain all the effort that they've been putting toward it, which is part of the reason that we needed to build up this RFA. So one, we'll be able to identify how much it costs to do all that work. And then two, the categories 2 through 5 further outline all the other areas that we've identified as high community need. So those seasonal winter sheltering staffing supports, that includes wages for overnight staff, site support, case management, training and onboarding, additional coverage. Severe cold weather response includes operating emergency pop-up shelters or warming spaces, deploying outreach teams, providing transportation. So really whatever the agencies or programs want to design, as long as it's within those eligible activities, it's an allowable cost. So it could be, specific to one of those eligible activities, say just an outreach team wants to be able to expand and hire some emergency staff, or it could be a program that's kind of all encompassing of a handful of those aspects. And then important to note, and something that I assume we as a department will move toward eventually, you'll notice differences from year 1 and year 2. And that is because agencies have communicated that it's difficult for them to, I guess, not account for inflation in those budget packages that are usually 50-50 splits for whatever we have available. So we intentionally built in a 3% increase from year 1 to year 2 to account for rising costs or staff wages and inflation and things like that. And then page 6 goes into the process. I'm not going to spend too much time on the RFA process because I think we did touch on this, and a lot of you are probably used to what that process looks like. Page 7 goes into eligible applicants and contract performance. Page 8 has our RFA timeline and technical assistance questions. Page 9, other programmatic requirements. So these are items that are required for all of our contracts in the department across the county. And this is all items that came directly from our contracts team as needing to be built in. And then we will go all the way down to page 14. Perfect. So page 14 is that application checklist. We included this, that way it's really easy for providers to go in and see that they have compiled all the necessary items for their proposals. And then page 15 is where we start to get into the questionnaire. And so this is where I would say that outside of those first program descriptions and intent of the RFA, this is where you're going to spend most of your time to understand kind of what we're looking for and what we have built in for the points or the available points to see where we are prioritizing funding. So this, you'll see the summaries tab will display the overall progress. And then tab 1 is that shared core. So they're only going to complete that one time. It gathers agency level information. And then tabs 2 through tab 6 are split up depending on that independent category that we are soliciting for. Next page goes into questions for each of the components. So all applicants must complete section 1, and then again it goes into tabs 2 through 6 and those questions and appropriate point structures for those. What I would recommend is that you review these items thoroughly, review the entire guidance document over the course of the next couple weeks. If you are available to make it to one of those PA spaces, or if you want to schedule one-on-one time with me outside of applicant, where the applicants would be coming in, because again, it is really specific to technical assistance. If you have technical assistance about bonfire, please come into those TA spaces. But if you have more specific questions around the point structure, I would ask that you schedule some one-on-one time with Abby and I, or shoot me an email so we can discuss those outside of the spaces for the agencies. Amy, the TA for bonfire support, we have September 8th from 3 to 4 p.m. and then September 15th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m.
Is that for help with bonfire or is that for like?
That's for technical assistance for bonfire.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So if you don't need that, then that. Okay. Never mind. Sorry.
Yep, right. No, you're totally good. It's mostly for the agencies who are having a hard time like understanding how to submit their documents. And Emily, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I joined the CAAB this summer, and I don't think I have like a bonfire login or anything like that.
So Abby, have you selected who's going to be on our scoring committee?
So I wanted to discuss that. I've only received 2 volunteers from the CAAB, Faye and Amy. We do need at least 1 additional volunteer. I'm not sure if we need more depending on how many ECHO volunteers we have. So if folks are available and interested in participating in this important scoring committee, please let me know. We really need and appreciate your help. So Emily, if you are interested in participating, we can definitely get you set up in Bonfire.
Hi,
Yeah,
Abby, this is
I
Diana.
can do that.
Wonderful. Thank
sorry.
you, Emily.
Abby, this is Diana. Just letting you know that I'll be raising my hand from the ECHO group and raise it here too.
Okay, perfect. So you'll be on the scoring committee from both perspectives?
Right. Well, we have a ECHO meeting next week, so we'll see who wants to volunteer from that group. I'll be raising my hand next week from ECHO.
Thank you, Diana. And Emily, I'll reach out to you directly over email to get you set up in Bonfire.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I wanted to add a comment, Abby, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
Just for some background for folks. One, this RFA is great, timely, and very helpful. But some background is that, do you remember that horrible freezing winter we had earlier this year? And our structure and our systems just kind of fell apart. ECHO did a after action review on those efforts, and what came out of that was coordination and working with some of the faith communities and some of the organizations, well, mainly Council for the Homeless. But the biggest needs that came out of that was the staffing volunteers, a training framework, and the facilities. So looking at the proportional differences or categories that are put here, I just wanted to make sure that it meets and aligns with some of those priorities that were highlighted from that after action review. And I know Michael Torres was in those meetings too. So, and I saw your response. Kayla. And just wanted to reiterate how important it is to really help the structure, and that this one-time funding isn't going to solve those needs that were highlighted, but it certainly helps us be in a better position to avoid and prevent that mess that happened earlier this year from happening again.
Thank you, Diana.
This is Melanie. I have a question. I know it's often our faith partners working with nonprofit agencies to host some of these emergency sites, but is it anticipated that faith partners themselves will apply? Are they going to be considered nonprofits, or how will that work exactly, do you anticipate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's going to work similar to the structure that we already had in place. So no, faith partners are not eligible to apply. They do not have the designation that's required for us to be able to contract out with them directly. But what we have done in the past is what's called a MOU or a memorandum of understanding. And it's something that can live under our provider's contract. So Council for the Homeless, when they were in charge of this effort with our effort with ARPA dollars, they had MOUs with each of the churches, and it pretty much was like they determined on a system level how much it would cost the churches per bed to be able to operate emergency beds for the night if they were to call severe weather. But it's also really important because it gives the churches more control over being able to independently say we can open during a response effort. People that contract with us will be required to do the work contracted with us anytime an activation occurs. But our faith partners don't have that capacity because they're usually ran on volunteers or maybe one or two leaders. So the faith partners are going to work directly with Council for the Homeless, and they'll open their doors and they'll get some reimbursements under the contracts for whoever the agencies are that are coming in to do those case management supports or those shelter staffing expansion supports. So an example would be, I believe one of the agencies is looking specifically for a church that they can just work with the entire winter season, as opposed to having to send their teams to different locations. So that's an option. It just really depends on how the agencies want to design their approach, whether or not they'll be kind of bouncing around to help the churches or whether or not they're going to bring a church in for a specific partnership.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. And another question I have is part of the scoring going to be geographical location based on like accessibility for public transportation, or, you know, scatter them across the community so they're not all clustered in one area? Is that part of the scoring? Okay.
That's a great question. Yes. So any outreach, well, really what they have to do is our planning entity is responsible for overseeing kind of that broad system reach. And so the planning entity is going to make sure that for anyone that's doing kind of like outreach or the severe weather supply distribution or the response that includes transportation, the planning entity will need to make sure that the policies and procedures and kind of when they call activation, who is responsible for what is set up and ready to go. That way we do reach that broad community need across the entire county. The other really cool thing, which we just learned, is that public health has actually created a dashboard and it includes kind of like hotspots related to the weather. And it will, it pulls up different colors based on right now, like where the areas are the hottest. And they're looking at developing something that'll be the same during winter for where areas are the coldest. Because right now that has been one of the most difficult parts for Council for the Homeless is needing to kind of call and coordinate, but getting the feedback that, well, you know, it's really, really, really hot in Battleground, but it's not that hot, you know, down on the waterfront. So how do we call a system-wide, you know, emergency without knowing the differences in each of those locations? So they are collaborating more closely with public health, and I have also let public health know that once the council approves the contracts, I will reach out with them to schedule meetings so they're aware of which programs that they can reach out to and offer support to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, Kayla, this is Diana again. I just wanted to chime in here. Melanie's question is so important because the heavy lifting to provide the actual boots on the ground at the facilities to take care and watch over people and during these severe events are the volunteers from a lot of these faith-based organizations. And what we heard from the faith-based organizations is that their volunteers are getting older and fewer, in addition to challenges with having insurance for their facilities to provide spots. So that's why this other half of this picture is the actual volunteer numbers or support capacity and training, that coordinative effort. So I just wanted to raise that up as well. And the transportation to and from these locations.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And when we spoke to the Severe Weather Task Force as well, they've shared that same sentiment. But nobody in that group, I think that everyone in that group feels like this will meet that need. I think the thing that we'll need to consider once we go through the scoring process is, like, we also don't know who's actually going to apply, right? We also don't know how many of these funds are actually going to get awarded because we've never had an RFA like this before. And the money that Council for the Homeless received was not, 800,000 to do this response either. So we did build in enough for all of those components to hopefully be able to identify like if there is that high of a need, and if not, right, if there is a component or a certain activity that doesn't receive as much application and we're not going to allocate those funds, then we would have the capacity during our CAAB discussion to see if we want to move those to another category for more supports too. So I think just keep that in mind. And we might need to have some more conversations if we don't have enough buy-in from the community on if we still need to figure out another way to support during this time.
And then one last question, on the amounts that's set for each category, are those flexible to move around, or are they set? For those
They could be. What I will say is that this is based on the discussions and the expenses that Council for the Homeless has spent, and in their discussions with the other programs that take part in the planning, what they have shared as well. And then we also have a expenditure report. So all homeless services that occur within Clark County are required to report expenditures to the state. It's something that was just completed and submitted last week. So it includes everything from like City of Vancouver safe stays to the Clark County funded shelters to random shelters that don't even touch HMIS. If we have a PEEP, we are able to reach out to those agencies. So it's a really large consolidated report of our efforts. There are some severe weather shelters and expenses in there too. So that information was used to kind of determine what we need to break out. And honestly, the money here in the system for the effort as a whole is non-existent. It's very, very limited.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to, I think, no matter what, really, really support and really, really highlight our advocacy needs for the next 2 years.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, that is all I have. Yep. Thank you, Abby.
Oh, I was just going to say, it looks like Katie's hand is also raised. Katie, did you have a question?
No, I don't think so. I don't know why it's up. Sorry. Took me a minute on my phone.
No worries. Well, thank you so much, Kayla, for being here. And thank you to everyone on the CAAB who volunteered for this scoring committee. If anyone else wants to participate, let me know. The more the merrier. And feel free to reach out to Kayla and I if anyone has any other questions about this RFA.
All right, thank you. We're a little ahead of schedule, but we're going to pass it off back to Abby for a CAAB report to the community. Oh. Is that the
That might
bylaws
be
revision?
old agenda. You have that, Melanie. Next we have.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Next we have a quick revision to the bylaws. So we recently received direction from the Clark County Council to add a designated county council member position to the Community Action Advisory Board, similar to we have for the Vancouver City Council. So this just requires a brief addition to the bylaws. I sent this out and I also have it up here on my screen. Under Article 5, Section 1, it would just add in this elected official section, one public office representative will be held by a Clark County Council member. Happy to take any questions or any discussion about this at this time. All right, hearing none. Melanie, I think we will need a motion to approve this change to the bylaws.
Okay, do we still have quorum?
See.
Sorry, I can't see everyone on my screen as easily.
Yes, we do.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so we are seeking a motion to change the bylaws to have one public office representative held by a Clark County Council member. If anyone.
This is Amy. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And I think I heard someone else chime in. Do I have
Emily.
a second? Emily, thank you, Emily. All right, we have a motion and a second by Emily to approve this change to our bylaws to allow one public office representative by the Clark County Council member. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And Abby, I guess I do have a question. Is there an application process that will be released now that this has been approved? Or will it be an appointment?
So the way this will work will be the same as the Vancouver City Council position, where the council itself appoints one of their members to our board.
Okay, do we have a timeline for when we anticipate that to happen?
It's a good question. Now that the bylaws have been revised, the next step is I'm going to reach out to the county council and let them know that we're ready for them to appoint a member, and it's really on their timeline at this point.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Next, we have an open public forum. If anyone who is not part of CAAB would like to speak, now is a time to say so. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? All right, hearing no one, we'll move along to the other business. Now we'll hear the CAAB report to the community.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you, Abby.
So this is just to let you all know that back before COVID, the CAAB was helping publish a report to the community annually, just based on the programs that it oversees, the work that's being done, information about the community needs assessment, etc. And we are looking to bring that back. I've started drafting this report and am hoping to have a draft for you all before the November meeting, for you all to have time to review it and approve it at the November meeting. So this is really just an FYI about that. And there's previous versions of this report on the CAAB website if you want to take a look. And if anyone has any thoughts about additional information that should be added to the report for this next round, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Otherwise, it's mostly going to be based on previous reports. Any questions about that?
Where is that report located?
It should be on the CAAB website, and
Okay.
I can send out the most recent version in the follow-up email. Any other questions?
All right. And January meeting, hearing none, we'll move on to the January meeting discussion. Abby, do you want to take the lead on that, please?
Yeah, for sure. So this is just to get us started talking about our January meeting. Every year in January, we have 8 hours together to discuss, general annual board business. And then we also have designated time for specific trainings or group activities. And I would just love your thoughts and feedback if there's anything specific that you all are wanting to use this time for. Last year, we used the time for RFA training. We don't have an RFA this year, so that's not necessary. The year before, we used it for equity training. So if there are any specific topics that you all are interested in learning about for this January, let me know. Feel free to reach out over email. Also, if something pops into your mind later on, but just to get that ball rolling, if we want to bring in an external trainer or something to get that scheduled. Does anyone have any thoughts that they want to share at this time?
Hi, Abby, this is Diana. Oops, somebody else chimed in. Go ahead.
You can go ahead, Diana. I can go after you.
Okay, mine was just information sharing. So I was thinking about the intersection between CAAB and ECHO, and really that intersection being information and knowledge. Information and knowledge is power. And just a quick update I thought that would be beneficial for everyone here is we are looking at ECHO, we are looking at adding a person or two, the representative of the community, low-income community, or who has experience being houseless. So I wasn't sure, Abby, if anybody had reached out to you to get some information on how that's working for CAAB and how that recruitment went for purposes of ECHO. And then secondly, one of the exercises that we went through on ECHO was identifying buckets or themes and priority areas so that we can start developing a strategy or a framework. And one of those steps to move forward is to do a system-wide analysis. So we're a discussion of wanting to do a system-wide analysis. And really this is about looking at the systems and where there's conflict, where there's duplication, where there's a need to change. So cross-sector analysis of this, which is outside of just the homeless action plan. So this is really looking at our landscape and our ecosystem here with all that we have around houselessness. So I thought that was a really good analysis that we're trying to do and intersects nicely with knowledge here on the CAAB, and just wanted to share that bit of information with you.
Diane, what is ECHO stand for?
ECHO is the Ending Community Homelessness Organization. It's a joint group between the county and the different cities, elected officials get together. And it has evolved in the past years. Before 2022, I believe it was like the joint something group. I don't know if anybody remembers what it was called, but then it changed into a different name with Counselor Medvigi, and so it's evolved to where people needed to see some change into bringing all these different elected officials together to talk about ending houselessness versus just getting a report. So today there's this effort to really be strategic and coordinated, collaborate on some of these tougher issues.
Thanks, Diana. Were you thinking that some sort of collaboration with ECHO could happen at the January meeting, or is this just more for FYI?
I was thinking some collaborative effort, some information sharing, some knowledge sharing, a dialogue on both efforts. We could put some thought into it.
Yeah, for sure.
I also agree with that idea. I'm also on the ECHO board as well, and I think that would be valuable. I think there's a lot of intersection between the two groups, and to be able to meet and have a conversation about that and have everyone be on the same page would be really beneficial.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, we can brainstorm what that would look like, if that would involve, more ECHO members coming to our January meeting for a guided conversation, or if that would be, Katie and Diana providing a presentation on what ECHO's been up to. But I love that suggestion. We can definitely brainstorm more how that would look in practice.
Katie, we can bring that up at ECHO next week.
I was just thinking about that, Diana. I agree with that too.
Yeah, I'll look at you to do that.
Oh, okay. I'll do it.
I'll back you up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Any other thoughts or suggestions for the January meeting?
One more, sorry. I've got a lot of thoughts, sorry. One of the latest things, the gap with the mobile response teams that the Columbia River Mental Health used to have, and I know that they were funded by the county to do some of those mobile, I want to call them mobile crisis teams, but they're not crisis, mobile response teams. Has there been an assessment on, was there funding for that? Is it gone? Did they use it? What about the gap that we have now because of what's happening with Columbia River Mental Health? I don't think we need to dive into it today, but it's certainly on my mind, and I wasn't sure if that was something you wanted to share.
Yeah, I don't actually have info about that right now, but I'm happy to look into it and send out whatever I can find.
Okay, thanks.
Diana, are you speaking specifically about the mental health crisis response, or are you talking about something different?
There's two different things, and I just learned this yesterday or the day before. There's the mobile health response, and then the full responder for crisis response. So there's a lot of mix up on these two efforts, and so I feel like that's an area that we need to clear up and clean up. But pointing to Columbia River Mental Health and the funding that they were getting from the county and the mobile teams that they were sending out, what is what gap are we seeing now because of what's happening to Columbia River mental health? I know
Okay.
that the
I
code
can reach out
Yes.
to the new CEO and speak to him. We're in other meetings together, Daniel Smith. So I can inquire on those and just get it directly from him if he has any information that I can share with the group.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Is this on that or other business?
We were still on January meeting discussion.
Okay.
We can move to other business if no one else has any comments on the January meeting.
Okay, it doesn't look like nobody does. I just wanted to let everybody know that tonight at the library we will be well, not we, but the Vancouver Housing Authority is hosting their town hall and public hearing, and they wanted to hear from everybody, from people on Section 8, nonprofit leaders, staff, residents in safe stay communities, shelters, unhoused communities, renters, and landlords. They want us to come share our thoughts, experiences, and ideas to help shape housing policies and the future of our community. Plus, they're going to have a raffle for 3 lucky winners. We'll each receive a $100 gift card, and this is between 5 and 7 tonight, and it's in the Columbia room at the Vancouver Library. And there will be pizza served too, and free parking.
Thanks, Amy.
Any other comments before we wrap up?
Yep, Amy, is that at the downtown branch of the library?
Correct. Yes, that is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hearing no more questions or comments, we can adjourn the meeting. Just a reminder that our next CAAB meeting is November 5th, starting at 9 a.m. and information can be found on our website. And wishing you all a lovely day. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
Okay.